Mary is a 52-year-old woman who was diagnosed with diabetes. She was given a Novolog Flex Pen and a Lantus Flex Pen to help her manage her high blood sugar levels. Unfortunately, she is unable to use her glucometer to check her blood sugar level and to take her medication, which are the Novolog and Lantus Flex Pens, due to paresthesia in her hands. Her sensations are impaired in her hands, which affect her motor skills and her ability to manipulate objects such as her medications. The Moberg pickup test was created by Dr. Moberg to assess the client's functional level of his or her sensation. It measures the client's motor functions, specifically fine motor skills. The client is required to pick up certain objects on a table and place them inside a container. The occupational therapist examines the client's ability to perceive constant touch, or her ability to locate objects, and the amount of pressure applied while pinching each item, also known as her precision grip. The test assesses the client's ability to manipulate and identify each small item. The items consist of various sizes to assess different levels of difficulty. There are 4 different tests in which the client must pick up each item as quickly as possible with the eyes open and while blindfolded. The client must also be able to identify each item while her vision is occluded. When the test is administered with the client's eyes open, the OT examines the client's precision grip. When the test is administered while the client is blindfolded, the OT examines the client's sensory function grip. The client will perform each test with her right hand and then the left hand, and she'll be timed to see how quickly she can transfer each item from the table into the container. Hi Mary, my name is Catherine. I'm going to be your occupational therapist for you today. Before we get started, I want to introduce to you this assessment that I brought today. It's called the Moberg Picking Up Test, and basically I'm just going to ask you to perform a variety of tasks using these 12 small items here. So over here we have a wing nut, we have a nail, we have a paper clip, we have a large nut, we have 1 key, we have a safety pin, and we have 1 screw, we have a small square unit, we have 1 dime and 1 nickel, 1 washer, and 1 small hex nut. So for this first test, I'm going to ask you to pick up each item as quickly as you can using only your right hand, okay? But before you get started, you're not allowed to slide each item across the table. You can only pick them up wherever they're located on the table, and I'm going to time you to see how long it'll take for you to move each item from the table onto the container, okay? You ready? Okay. When I say go, you may get started. Ready? Go. Okay, perfect. So your time was 1 minute and 1 second. So for the next test, you're going to do the same exact task, but this time you're going to be blindfolded, okay? Okay, Mary, so now that you're blindfolded, I have placed all the items back onto the table. They're towards your right side, and the containers towards your left side. So I want you to try to feel the items first so you know where they are. Can you do that for me, Mary? Okay. Okay. So again, like I said, when I say begin, you're going to try to move each item one by one from the table into the container, and I'm going to be timing you, okay? So when I say go, you may begin. Go. Okay, just letting you know you have 4 items left, so try to feel the last 4. All right, 1 more item. So your time for this second test was 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Okay, so for this next test, I want you to give me your right hand. And what I'm going to do, instead of having you transfer each item from the table inside the container, I'm going to place each item in between your thumb, index, and middle finger. And I want you to try to identify what item it is you're holding just by trying to touch it and feel it. But try not to use your ring finger and pinky finger. And I'm going to also time you for this one. So once I start the timer, I'll give you the first item. Okay? You ready? Here's the first item.
I don't know.
Try to see if you could feel it.
Is it a screwdriver?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to take it from you. I'll give you the next item. Go ahead.
It's bigger. It's circular. Don't know. Is it a wing nut?
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's the next one.
It's flat. Is it a nickel?
Mm-hmm. Here's the next item. What do you think it is?
A key?
Mm-hmm. Here's the next one. Be a little difficult.
Is it a paper clip?
Mm-hmm. Right. We're about halfway there. How about this one?
It's like a coin.
Is it a coin? Let's see if you could.
Is it the washer?
Mm-hmm. That's right. All right. Be careful with this one.
It's pointing at the top. Stand. Is it
Don't forget, try to only use your first 3 fingers.
a nail?
Mm-hmm. All right. How about this one?
Is it a large nut?
Mm-hmm. Okay. This one might be a little tricky.
Small. Is it a small hex nut?
Mm-hmm. All right, we're almost there. And here's your next one. Try to be careful with that one also.
Is it a safety pin?
Mm-hmm. All right, we got 2 more items. See if you can recognize this one. Using only your 3 fingers.
Square.
Mm-hmm.
A square unit?
Yep. All right, and for this last one,
A dime?
mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So you took 4 minutes and 38 seconds to complete this test. So for the last one, I'm going to take your blindfold off. And we're going to basically repeat the first test that we did. I'm going to move all the items back to the right side. And what you're going to do, you're not going to be blindfolded for this one. You're going to transfer each item into the container. But this time you're only going to be using your first 3 digits, your thumb, index finger, and middle finger. You're not allowed to use your 4th and 5th digits, also known as your ring and pinky finger, okay? So again, I'm going to time you for this last test, and once I say start, you may begin. Okay, ready? Okay, start. Don't forget you're not allowed to slide the items across the table, so try to pick them up right wherever they're located. Perfect. So you took about 1 minute and 54 seconds to complete this last test. So I finished administering the Moberg pickup test to Mary, and as you can see, this is her score sheet. For the purpose of this video, I only administered the test using her right hand, but typically the test would be administered using both her right and left hand for her test. So right here on the first test where I timed her ability to pick up each item as quickly as she can while she's able to see the items. It took her 1 minute and 1 second using her right hand. For the next test, where she was blindfolded, I timed her ability to pick up each item while she's not able to see them, and it took her longer, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. For the third test, where she was still blindfolded, but I placed each item in between her first, second, and third digits, it took her much longer, 4 minutes and 38 seconds to be able to identify all 12 items. There is also a subtest for the third test in which the client must try to identify each item within a range of time, specifically 10 to 19 seconds and between 9 to 16 seconds. But based on her previous time scores for the other tests, this would not apply to Mary because since she takes much longer to move each item from the table to the container and to also identify each item while she's blindfolded due to her paresthesia in her hand. So I put NA, and for the last test, in which I had asked her to repeat the first test by transferring each item from the table onto the container, but this time using only 3 fingers, her first, second, and third digits. She took longer than the first time where she was allowed to use any of her 5 fingers. It took her 1 minute and 54 seconds. So based on these time scores, Mary typically takes longer to move each item or identify each item while she's blindfolded because she's unable to use her vision to help her assist with her touch sensation. I also took some notes earlier while I was observing her, and I noticed she was able to pick up each item using her first, second, third, and fourth digits for most of the time. She was constantly touching the table to try to feel the items, and she struggled on the last test where she was only allowed to use her 3 fingers. She had to remind her that she was only allowed to use those 3 fingers, and also I had to remind her not to slide each item across the table. The Moberg pickup test was appropriate to administer to Mary because she presents difficulties using the glucometer and the Novolog and Lantus flex pens due to a paresthesia in her hand. She is unable to check her blood glucose level and take her medications on a daily basis since her sensation in the hands are impaired. The nurse discovered that Mary was unable to use the tip of her fingers to pick up a pen when she visited her home. The Moberg pickup test allows the occupational therapist to examine Mary's ability to perceive constant touch, to be able to locate the items on the table, observe her precision grip, and ability to manipulate items, which are needed in order for her to use her glucometer and flex pens. The results of the assessments may help the occupational therapist identify possible compensatory strategies for Mary when she has to check her blood glucose level using the glucometer and take the medication using the Novolog and Lantus flex pens. The occupational therapist may educate Mary and help her establish techniques so that she'll be able to use the glucometer and flex pens, such as adapting these items in order to improve her grip, since she presents deficits in fine motor due to her impaired sensations in her hands. And finally, this will allow her to effectively engage in health management and maintenance and improve her ability to perform her medication routine on a typical basis.